Well, this is DevOps Dispatch live from KubeCon North America 2023. I had to think about that for a minute, which is the part that is a little scary.
There's been a lot of them.
There's been a lot. My name is Santamaria. I am a lead developer advocate here at Dell. I am joined by my co-host for the live podcast.
Hello, my name is Kat Cosgrove, also a lead developer advocate at Dell.
And we have a guest with us. Who is our guest?
Well, I'm Noah Abrahams. I am a senior principal technical program manager over at Oracle. There's way too many words in that title.
You are intentionally doing a radio voice, aren't you?
I wasn't intentionally, but I can summon it if you would like me to.
If you come nice and close to the mic and do it, I want to hear the radio voice.
Today, on the weather we will have... No, okay.
Cat cannot keep a straight face.
That's for the best.
I don't have a good poker face at all.
It's all good. It's all good. So we are here talking about community, open source, all the fun things. But how about we start with Contributor Summit? How was Contributor Summit for everybody?
I had a good time.
You had a good time?
It was useful for me. Good SIG release meeting. We got some actual work done once we got everybody in the same room from multiple time zones.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
You know? How about you know?
I thought it was fabulous. I love the fact that when we do the Contributor Summit, we can get people to just get in a room and talk, as opposed to having to
isn't it?
Oh, it'll be on the Zoom, it'll be on a calendar somewhere, and maybe it might happen. But instead, we'll have
Actually happened.
hey,
we get
here's a
people
room.
that don't normally show up to the meetings when it's in person too.
Yes.
You know, so there's.
So how often do we end up with a situation where we've made a decision and then the people who never really show up to the meetings come to Contributor Summit and go, well, actually, not very often, because that's a good sign for a community, right?
Happen a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Nobody actually does in the SIG release meeting.
That's good.
It was
That's
really
good.
Nice.
So in EU, we had the controversy around LTS of Kubernetes. Do we
Yes.
have any new controversies? Well, I put controversies in gigantic air quotes. I'll put it on for the video. Air quotes. Any other new controversies that came out of Contributor Summit? Like things that we're like talking about going, is this really a good idea?
I think people were still kind of talking about the LTS thing.
Okay, there's that too.
You know,
There's that too. Because that's a working group now.
Right. Yeah. There was a little bit of hemming and hawing about Open Tofu, but that's not specifically related to Kubernetes. So.
No, that's true. That's true.
I think everything was pretty well received.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's good.
I think so.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with the number and distribution of the types of talks that we got there. We had quite a few SIG talks. We had a lot of prepared talks, and being able to do the unconference on the fly. Like I'm always have my own personal things that I want to stick in there. Like I keep talking about non-code stuff, and I'm always waving this flag. It's like, hey, I've got the non-code Vania over here, and getting some people in the room to actually talk. We had like 6 people in the room, and I'm like, yay, that was 300% increase from the last time we got people in a room together.
Yay.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
It's almost like momentum.
What remains to be seen is whether or not any of the action items that people took are actually going to be completed.
That's true.
I know I accidentally volunteered myself for a couple of action items because I don't think before I open my mouth.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
I was very excited with the ones that came out of our meeting because, first of all, we had some other people from outside who hadn't been in the conversation previously bringing ideas, which is, yay, all right,
Excitement.
I want that. But also, part of the non-code initiative is wanting to get other SIGs involved so we can say, okay, how does a SIG do X, Y, and Z? How do we get...
Right.
Now we need buy-in from a couple SIG chairs. Oh, wait, conveniently,
They're
we
right
happen
there.
to have a couple in this room right now. Would you be willing?
So you rope them in time.
That's another convenient thing, though. Like, I had to do a branch sync for this current release cycle. That's a thing that I have to do twice a week right now. And normally it takes a while because I have to spend time like chasing down somebody to approve it and somebody to give it an LGTM, which is, nothing is ever interesting in these branch syncs. They don't require an actual review. You just have to make sure there aren't any conflicts and there's nothing.
Right.
Right. But normally it takes me a day or two to get those merged because I got to chase 2 different people down. But here, no, I just like stood up and walked one table over and, hey, Ray Lojano, could you please approve this PR for me?
I'm just going to sit down right next to you and stare at you until you actually approve it.
I'm watching you.
Not making it uncomfortable or anything.
It'll be fine.
No, don't make it
It'll be
weird.
fine.
Don't make it weird. I'm going to make it weird.
Yeah, make it weird. Make it weird. Start staring. So anyway, actually, you know, I do want to pivot a little bit just for a minute.
Okay.
The two of you are about to do a talk here at KubeCon.
We are.
We sure are.
I'm going to embarrass you both because that's part of the fun. But I also want people to watch the recording afterwards of said talk. So for people who are listening to the podcast or maybe watching the podcast, because this is somehow a visual medium.
Yeah, podcasting is a famously visual medium.
Of course, exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me now. I want to hear about this talk that you two are doing. Well, with other people.
With other people.
Let's hear about this talk. Are you excited?
I am extremely excited, and
I understand that you've made a lot of dad jokes into this talk.
oh, the jokes are, I would say,
absolutely devastating.
It's a good 70% of the talk is just bad jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
painful.
that sounds like a really good talk.
It's the plan. You got to know your audience, right?
Also true. I mean, we're geeks, we're nerds.
Yeah.
What can we say?
This is a Dungeons and Dragons themed educational talk about Kubernetes, intro to Kubernetes, told through us trying to play a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Don't give away anything.
Oh, I'm not gonna. But
I mean, but that should set the scene right there.
But if you've played Dungeons and Dragons, especially if you've spent a significant amount of your life playing Dungeons and Dragons, we're hitting a lot of player tropes in this talk that should be a fun deep cut for fans of D&D, even if you are not new to Kubernetes.
So there we go. Do you have any more of a pitch for it?
I think one of the reasons that this talk exists, and talks that I've tried to rope other people into in the past, is especially with new folks that are trying to wrap their heads around some of these early concepts, if we can give them some hilarious metaphor that they can just be like,
latch onto.
Wow, I laughed my butt off, and also now I understand what Prometheus is.
Yeah.
That's really...
You can keep going. He'll just stare.
I don't know if I can. It's a really powerful tool for the people who are new to the ecosystem, who are trying to... So, I mean, every year we get however many thousands of people here.
Yep.
And they didn't do it this year, but it's always, how many people is your first KubeCon? And it's like half the audience.
It's significant.
Yeah.
It's significant. And like if you go to KubeCon regularly, it's easy to forget how much of the audience is new because you're just hanging out with your friends and you're getting recognized and seeing the same people you see every year, but you don't notice all of the people that you've never seen before. It is close to, it's like 35 or 40% of the conference every year.
At least.
Right? So,
which makes you wonder, right? I mean, so kind of getting back a little bit to community and talking about that. How is it that we always have about half of the conferences new, but we don't get any bigger?
So we do little by little.
Little by little.
But
Okay, true.
It's not significant. So like, why do we have? Why is the churn rate so high, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about it, we get people who come on. They do their thing.
Yeah.
They maybe stick around for a couple of years, then they disappear. Part of it, I think, is startups, right?
Startups
But-
or companies don't send the same core team every single time. Like I would want to know, actually, I don't know if we can get this information, but I would like to know how many of the like new attendees to KubeCon are on sponsor badges.
That's true. That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
I think there's also a rotation in the people that get sent. I don't want to make it a platitude, but it's like, hey, more of the same. It's different, but it's the same people again and again.
Yeah.
They are the same new people. If you have companies that are, say, trying to adopt Kubernetes, trying to get this whole thing, they're trying to wrap their head around it, they're going to send a team and say, okay, let's get all our people in there. And then they've sent them, and they're like, well, we sent you last year, and now you're up and running, so you obviously don't need to go back and go attend new educational talks because we've already got a system up and running. So then it's another company who's up and running. And then 2 years later, they'll realize that they had problems, and they'll be sending completely different people because the other people have moved on.
Right.
The thing that you like occasionally see people who go to KubeCon a lot complain about without thinking about is they'll complain about the schedule being a little bit repetitive in some places, especially with like the 10, now it's called the Cloud Native Novice, but formerly 101 track being repetitive. But if close to 50% of the conference is new people, then every single year we need some kind of like intro to Kubernetes, intro to GitOps, intro to Prometheus. Like those talks have to exist every single year. And we also always have to have some kind of talk explaining the cloud native landscape. You
Right.
cannot have a conference without those things. So before you complain about the schedule for the cloud native novice track at any point, consider that it's not for you, person who has been to KubeCon 7 times, right? It's for people that have never been before or have very little exposure to Kubernetes. So it is by its nature always going to be repetitive.
Yeah.
I remember there was one keynote in, was it LA or San Diego? Kelsey gave a keynote. He just had an offhand comment of, if I see one more canary deployment, I'm going to scream. And we all kind of laughed. And then like 10% of this audience actually really needs that content. It's really going to be relevant for them because they've already gone through day one and now they need to know what to actually do with the systems that they've got.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like if we care about community as much as that we say we care about community, then we have to remember that a significant portion of that community does not have the same experience that we have.
Right.
Doesn't have anywhere near as much experience as we have. We're the experts in the room, and it shouldn't all be tailored for us.
Right.
That would be stupid, and that's not community. Really.
Yeah.
So. And
I remember how it was when I first got started, seeing the people who were the experts, and I was like, wow, I'll never aspire to that level of interesting and intricate stuff. And now they're like, you're the expert. I'm like, wait, no, I don't know any more than I did then. But now I'm the expert.
No, not an expert. No, that's
how did that happen?
How dare you?
that's a problem.
How dare you?
I mean, I feel like this kind of gets down to something though that we're seeing a lot in open source communities, which is it's getting harder and harder to get more contributors. It's getting harder and harder to keep momentum going on a project and try to get help with it.
Yeah.
I know, Noah, you had suggested during Contributor Summit, like a call for help.
Yes.
So, and that seemed to go really well, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people were really interested in the idea of being able to get up and give the call for help. Mm-hmm. And something that was brought up almost immediately was the people you're now shouting to is you're preaching to the choir. You're in a room full of contributors and maintainers and saying, we really need help with this. We need to get another way where we can get that sort of information publicized to the people that aren't already at the Contributor Summit so we can get more people involved.
Right.
And that's perennial for every open source project everywhere.
Right.
From the history of human creation. It's just, I mean, it's always been like that, and I don't know that it's ever like not going to be like that. We're always going to want more contributors. We're always going to want a larger community. We're always going to want to like spread the load over a larger number of people. I think SIG release is uniquely blessed in that area. We don't have a problem with not having enough help, not having enough contributors. In SIG release, we actually have the opposite problem, where we have too many people trying to help, and it gets it's very difficult to select shadows for the release team. Because we get so many applicants, and I wish more people would apply. Honestly, like give me more options. But we get a couple hundred applications for a team that has like 26 slots on it or something.
And it didn't used to be that way. When I was on the release team, I was on release team for 110, and I showed up and said, hey, can I help? And they were like, oh, right this way, please. Come in. Anybody else? While the door's open, would you like to come inside?
Here, we'll wedge that door open. We'll add a window open. Whatever we need to do, you come and help us.
They're like, here's the shadow application process. Please fill it out so I can approve it immediately.
Yeah, I think at some point SIG release or at least the release team became like the de facto entry point for new Kubernetes contributors to like kind of find a home.
That's fair. I can see that.
Yeah, like by virtue of being on the release team through a release, it depends on the team you're on, but you have to interact with the leadership of so many different SIGs.
Right.
And it makes it easier to kind of like meet people, do a little bit of networking, and also just like figure out what your vibe is and whether you want to go hang out in like API machinery or SIG Windows or
wherever.
Some of that might be my fault, actually.
Why would you do that?
Troublemaker.
So my first contribution was release team, and during the release team process, in some of the meetings, people were saying, "Oh, nobody's first contribution is going to be release team," and I'm like, "Hello, it's me right here."
I think it's a good place for people to enter the Kubernetes project. Personally. Like it's great because people may think that the release team requires like a lot of technical expertise, but it really just requires that you like know how to use GitHub. And even if you don't really know how to use GitHub well, it requires that you know how to like copy and paste instructions. Because at this point we have everything like so aggressively well documented that you can just like go through the role handbook and copy and paste. and it's fine. So it's good for both technical contributors and non-technical contributors to start.
Get comfortable, get
yeah.
to know the structure of the project,
Yep.
understand how open source works,
Yep.
all of that.
It's really good for just being an overview completely. I mean, I got in, I was like, I need to understand more about how this works together. So I jumped in on release notes. And I'm like, I guarantee that by the end of these 3 months, I will know a whole lot more about a bunch of features that I had no idea existed.
Yeah.
If you were on 110, that was before we had KEPs.
Oh, yeah. It was before KEPs. It was before we had a formal release notes process.
So mass pandemonium, basically.
It was absolute madness. Space madness.
Space madness.
Oh, that's a good episode.
Space madness.
Yeah.
There we go. I have no idea. What
It's
you're
an
talking
episode
about.
of Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Thank you for getting that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. It's my favorite episode.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, Ren starts craving ice cream. And
Okay.
He eats a bar of soap. So he thinks
Oh.
it's an ice cream sandwich. It's
Interesting.
got space madness.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. I don't know how we got on a bar of soap, but it works out.
It's part of DevOps. Trust
I mean,
us.
it's cleaning. We need to clean up our
Yeah,
clusters after us with soap.
We do.
So garbage collection.
Garbage collection.
The cloud
Oh
custodian.
no! Here we go.
Don't give away free content, dude.
Oh, sorry.
It's from our talk, bro.
Sorry.
Wait, what? Oh,
Not saying anything.
Preview.
I will not say anything else.
Dun 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 dun
Find
dun
out tomorrow.
dun 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 dun. Anyway, I think it's going to be really interesting to see just whether we can turn over a lot of these. Hey, I'm a new person. I'm here checking it out to contributors because, we put such a premium on this moment to try to reach people because they're here, they're in person, they're around. But is it working? I'm kind of curious to find out.
There's also the ladder issue. So
There is the ladder issue.
My day job is helping people who want to contribute be able to do so.
Right.
And a lot of that is getting them over the first hump of, okay, so where do you want to contribute? And they go,
Actually, we probably need a better roadmap for that.
We probably do.
I think the Kubernetes project, the release team should not be like the de facto entry point. I think it's a good one, but there should be another path to
Docs.
take, you know?
It used to be
Docs,
just
yeah.
joining SIG Contribex and Slack and then saying, hey, where can I
Basically.
help? Which is...
Yeah. I mean, it still kind of is in some ways.
Yeah.
People do that. But also, like, at the same time, it's gotten so large that is the Slack the best place for
I
people
don't
to
think
start?
so.
I think people get lost in that Slack.
Yeah.
Really, really easily.
Honestly, I get a lot of people that DM me on Twitter asking like
Yeah.
how they start contributing to Kubernetes.
Yeah.
And then, the answer is there. I have a one-on-one conversation with them to find out like what they like, what they're good at,
Mm-hmm.
and then direct them to the appropriate SIG
Yeah.
usually. But that's not scalable.
Right.
Like one-on-one conversations with like random contributors is not, we can't scale that. So we need a better roadmap for people.
I tell people, find a couple things that sound interesting because you're not getting married to a SIG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can show
You
up
can
and then just
leave.
never come back.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
totally fine. Find a couple that sound interesting and then just go to some meetings. Find out what the meetings are.
Right.
Just lurk on the meeting, sit in the background and see, does this sound interesting? Because if you don't want to get into an argument about distributed systems, then maybe SIG-Arch isn't for you. But
I mean, if you want to get into an argument, period, maybe one of those SIGs is for you. Because,
Maybe.
those
Yeah.
discussions happen every single meeting and you
They
get to
do.
have lots of fun.
I do.
I mean, good arguments. I should say good
Yes.
It's
arguments.
not an angry argument. It's
No,
a,
it's
it's
just-
a useful, productive argument.
productive, educational, academic arguments.
Yeah.
It's a technical argument. There we go.
We'll call it a debate.
A debate. There we
Yes,
go.
much
yes,
better
a technical
phrasing.
debate. Technical debate. All right. Well, we are just about at time. We talked
Figures.
about community. What? I know. Unfortunately, we do have to keep this podcast room moving because we are live. We are trying to get everybody through. So before we leave, Noah, is there anything else you want to talk about? Plug to the community. Tell everybody about whatever. This is your chance.
I'm going to plug the non-code meeting as always because everybody should try and get involved in that, whether they are someone who wants to do non-code contributions or whether they are someone who is a maintainer and then has an idea of other things that need to be done
Mhm.
in the community, then they can always help us in that aspect.
So why don't you explain what a non-code meeting is a little bit, just to kind of give everybody a bit of a sense. We got time for it. Let's do it.
So the non-code meetings are focused around the ideas of how the SIGs do work,
Mhm.
and being able to identify popularize and then make actionable the roles and the tasks that go along with everything other than writing code.
Right.
Everything, whether it's docs, PM, mentoring, events management. Like, there's so much stuff that goes into this
Exactly.
that people don't realize. There's just tons of work that we do that
The glue work.
it doesn't
All
show
of it.
up because
it's
it's
working.
not in GitHub.
Right.
And because it's working. You
And
don't-
because
you
it's
don't see it
working.
because it's working.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I
So
will totally
those are
plug
the
that.
meetings.
Those are the meetings, and they happen regularly. It's right now. It's a joint effort through SIG Contribex and Tag Contributor Strategy, because we want to do this
Okay.
work first with a couple SIGs, then expand to Kubernetes at large, and then expand to all the other projects, so that there's
Right.
a roadmap, there's advisory documents, so there's ways that everybody can understand how much of this work is being done and how to facilitate it.
And where can people find these meetings to put them on their Google calendars and actually show up?
Right now, it is on the CNCF calendar, and I announce them in Slack because
Yeah.
because
But-
the calendar doesn't really send out invites.
So we should clarify. There's the Kubernetes Slack, which will have the SIG Contribex, I'm not spelling right now.
CONTRIBEX.
Okay.
Contrabex.
Excellent. All right. So contributor experience just shortened. So it's the SIG Contribex channel, or if you go in the CNCF Slack, that's
It's-
where the tag
Contributor strategy.
contributor strategy channel. All right. That is where you should go if you would like to join all the non-code stuff. If you're not really sure where to go, that's a really great place to also get started if you don't feel like starting out with SIG release, which is always a little bit a lot.
It's a lot.
A little bit a lot.
A little
I
bit a lot.
describe-
Sure.
I described it as getting my feet wet face first.
Yeah, that's accurate.
That's actually really accurate.
That's
there we
correct.
go. So there's that. So Noah, say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for listening.